besties! I'm back with a Baby Marvel Stan reviews, and today we have, as you can tell from my American flag bandana and my Brooklyn, New York t-shirt, we're talking about Just Another Kid from Brooklyn today. Dang, I can't do the accent. Please don't cancel me. Brooklyn. Okay, I'm not gonna try. But Captain America, the first Avenger! As a lot of y'all know, this is my favorite Avenger. So let's just get right into it. Some of my friends that I talked about this series to before it kind of came to fruition told me that they do not watch Marvel movies, but they still wanted to watch my videos to support me. So what I'm going to start doing at the beginning of every video is giving like a small recap. I'm going to try and keep it under 60 seconds of what the movie was about before we get into the analysis. So Captain America, the First Avenger, is obviously Captain America's origin story, or how Steve Rogers became Captain America. We're set in the 1940s. Steve Rogers is a kid from Brooklyn. I don't actually know how old he is. I'm assuming in his early 20s. I mean, I don't know what his job was before this, but he's young. He's underweight, probably weighs less than me, and I weigh about 125. He's this scrawny kid. He has a lot of heart. He wants to enlist in the military to fight the war because his dad was in the 107th Infantry. But because he has so many health ailments, like he has asthma, and there's like this scene where there's a list of all of his ailments, he doesn't pass the test to get into the military. Long story short, him and his friend Bucky are at this event, this exposition where there's dancing and stuff. He sees a sign advertising enlistment, like one of those "we want you, Uncle Sam" things, and he goes off again posing as somebody else from a different place, because I guess every time you enlist, like, they're going to check your credentials to make sure you are who you are, and you can't keep enlisting as Steve from Brooklyn. So he goes in again. I think he's from Connecticut this time, or that's a joke Bucky makes, and somebody comes in the exam room and he basically says, "I can give you a chance to get into the military." And what the chance is this project called SSR, and it's basically, it was the United States' attempt to defeat Nazi Germany by building a super soldier, which we now know becomes Captain America. But at that time, it was unprecedented successfully. So Steve enlists. He's in a part of a, I don't know, a dozen or 2 dozen man unit. I don't know the correct military terminology, but he's going through the basic training and stuff with them. Clearly, like, eons behind, like they're running and he's like way back there. Or they do the thing where he's like crawling through the mud with the gun. You have to keep the gun above the mud, and he's just struggling climbing the things. He falls off the course, and it's just like he's really he needs some milk. So Dr. Erskine is the name of the man that gives Steve a chance to enlist into the military. And the colonel, he's looking at Dr. Erskine like, "Why did you bring me this 90-pound soaking wet man that can barely like carry his own body?" And Dr. Erskine is like, "I think he's the one that we want to test the serum on, the super soldier serum." The colonel's like, no. To test this theory, the colonel takes a fake grenade, throws it at the group of the men, and he yells, "Grenade, grenade!" And all of them are like, ducking, going for cover. And Steve jumps on top of the grenade, and he's like, "Get away, everyone, get away!" And he's like covering it with his body. And so eventually he like kind of slowly gets up, and he's like, "This is a test. Wow, this is taking way longer than a minute. Okay, let me skip all of this." That's how he gets chosen to be Captain America, because of his valiant nature, his personality. The villain in this story is Johann Schmidt, who is a German scientist. We later find out that he's the Red Skull. Dr. Erskine previously tested a version of the serum on him, And while he's alive, it did not work in the same way. And his face is mutated into this Red Skull villain. Like, his face is just unearthly. He comes up under Hitler in a way, but then throughout the course of the movie, he kind of like makes it clear that his allegiance is not to Hitler, but to himself. And he single-handedly builds an army of people that worship him for some reason, and his goal is to take over the world through, of course, eliminating people he sees as threats, which is just anyone who doesn't agree with his doctrine, which is Hydra. That's the name of their group, Hydra. Okay. So I'm not gonna go into all of the plot points in this movie because I feel like, don't cancel me, but in terms of the Captain America trilogy, it's not the most exciting in terms of the plot, but I am going to talk about a few just like things that I feel like need to be highlighted. The first being, for about like a quarter of the movie, Steve Rogers, before he becomes Captain America, is like pre-serum Steve. So he's this like scrawny guy, and it's probably because I'm used to looking at him as like his actual anatomically correct body. But seeing Steve like that was very weird because even though the body looked fine, his head, it might have been like literally proportionally correct, but because it was Chris Evans' face on that and like this small malnourished body, I was like, this is so weird. And I actually thought that they had like a body double for him. If you have Disney Plus, you can see a lot of the movies have like an extras tab where there's normally like bloopers or the trailer and that type of thing. So I went to the extras tab. One of the features was like the making of Steve Rogers. It does the behind the scenes of like the CGI, and it's him, because it would show like the one frame of the real Chris Evans, and then it would show like how they like morphed him into the CGI pre-serum Steve. It's just so weird to me. Like, I really wonder how long that took in post-production, because it's him the whole time. Like, the whole movie they're using him, which I guess in retrospect it wouldn't make sense to use a body double, because they would still need Chris to do the facial parts. But I don't know. You know how like in Shark Boy and Lava Girl, George Lopez is like that face? Okay, if you watch my Falcon and the Winter Soldier video before this one, you know that I had seen the Avengers movies before I saw Captain America's trilogy, or really any of the Marvel movies in timeline order. So I knew Bucky as the Winter Soldier. Like, I knew him as like Metal Arm Bucky. And there's this scene in the movie, it's early because he's pre-serum Steve. He's watching a movie actually at the theaters at this time, and it's the previews, and somebody in the audience is yelling, okay, can y'all skip the previews? Let's get on with the movie. What are y'all doing? And first Steve is like, hey, can you like quiet down, please? And then he's like, hey, why don't you show some respect? And the guy turns around like, who is this man talking to? And then we immediately cut to that guy beating up Steve in the alley. He's getting beat real bad, y'all. And of course Steve gets up, like bloody nose. He's like barely breathing, his asthmatic self, talking about some, I can do this all day. Like, you could, baby, but do you have to? Anyways, he's getting punched. All of a sudden you see the guy beating him up get grabbed, and then he gets punched by another guy, and then we cut and it's Bucky James Buchanan Barnes, played by Sebastian Stan. Man, you're looking good. Okay, so the first time I watched this, I said, is that Bucky? Like, I got so excited. So on one hand, I'm glad I saw the movies I did see, because Infinity War and Endgame in the theaters is, you know, an unparalleled experience. But I'm glad that I got to rewatch these movies like with that kind of knowledge already, because it's like, oh my god, I get to see where these characters come from. I see where they are in present day, and now it's like, oh my god, like Bucky was like with Steve back in the day. So that leads to, after Steve becomes Captain America, he learns that Bucky's unit, which is the 107th Infantry, which is the same as Steve's dad, got captured behind enemy lines in Germany. And so Steve's like, are we going to plan a rescue mission? The colonel's like, no, we lose more men than we save. It's not worth it. And Steve's like, bump that. And basically, Captain America single-handedly saves not only Bucky, but like 400 other men that were captured by German soldiers. So during that rescue mission, Steve learns that Red Skull has a plan, surprise, to eliminate a bunch of people in a violent way. And there's a map where Hydra is supposed to strike at different places in the world. So when he gets back to the States with the people that he rescued, he lets the colonel know, and they're like, okay, we have to devise a plan to stop this. So Cap rounds up a team, and it's mostly comprised of the men that he rescued from Germany. So of course Bucky's right by his side, his right hand man, and they go and are stopping the Hydra plans before they get into action. Well, there's a scene where they are fighting Hydra, and Bucky falls off a moving train, just like down into this abyss of landscape, and it's clear he's not going to survive the fall. So given that I've seen the other movies before I watched this, I of course like knew that he was gonna come back somehow, but I screamed. I was like, not Bucky! Even on my like second rewatch, I was crying at it, like, okay, you know he's coming back, but it's Bucky, oh my god! And the way he screamed, and then Steve just like leaning against the train because he tried to save him, and just every Marvel movie, there's a villain. And in this one, we have the Red Skull. And after the movie, I watched, the extras on Disney Plus, and there's one specifically about the Red Skull. And it was mostly about how they created him, like actually with the makeup they had to put on and stuff. But there is a portion of the extra where they're talking about the Red Skull's character. And one of the producers says something like the Red Skull was like the original Marvel villain, and he has no redeeming qualities. He's dead set on annihilating these people, like, and what did I say last video? Like, there's a pattern of Marvel villains trying to wipe out half or more of the human population, and the Red Skull is the OG villain. So that was really cool to see. I'm like, look at my mind. Okay, hire me. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say about him. He's crazy. Just watch the movie if you haven't. And the last thing I want to talk about is not even really related to Captain America, the First Avenger, directly, but it is about Stanley Tucci, who plays Dr. Erskine. That man understands the assignment and executes every time. I'm talking about the actor. Oh my gosh. Because he played Caesar Flickerman in the Hunger Games series. I can't even think of the other roles he's played, like off the top of my head, but I think that's the first thing I remember seeing him in. That man is a chameleon. Like, every role he plays, and they're so different, like from this doctor, Caesar Flickerman, he does it every single time, like, and I just had to point that out because obviously Chris Evans is the star of this movie, my heart and soul, but I saw him and I said, okay, Stanley, I know he's finna deliver. He has a German accent in the movie, and he's with his little glasses, and go Stanley. Alright, here's our question of the week. There's a scene early in the movie. It's pre-Serum Steve because it's right when he joins the military and he's in basic training. And this is when we get introduced to Peggy Carter, who, if you have not seen the Marvel movies, this is Cap's love interest. She is not a sergeant, agent Peggy Carter, and she has a British accent. Oh my god, wait, don't cancel me, wait. Stop. But no, she's English, and one of the people in Cap's VT group is like, I thought we were fighting for the United States, like, why is this British woman here? And she basically punches him in the face and like does that whole trope of like, what did you say, maggot? I mean, she doesn't say that obviously, but I honestly, like, the first time I watched it, before he even said anything, but she walked up and was like, hello, gentlemen, or whatever she said, I was like, how is she even there? Like, I think you know, we were allies with the UK or whatever, but how is she an agent, like, working in the US? I don't know how it works. So if someone wants to explain that, please drop it down below, because I didn't think he deserved to get well, he deserved to get punched because he made a sexist joke afterward. But his question, I was like, dang, I mean, can y'all answer though? Because how did she get here? Alright, thank y'all again for watching. Remember to answer the question of the week down in the comments if y'all know for real. Last week's question was fun. This one is like, I actually want to know because I don't. Be sure to share it with your Marvel besties, Chris Evans besties, all y'all. I really want to talk to you guys because I found my fandom. Follow me on TikTok. I met a lot of y'all on TikTok so far, as in like meeting more Marvel friends, and I'm so happy about it. So follow me there. Next time is going to be Captain Marvel, which is timeline order. It's one of the newer movies, but timeline wise, we started in 1940. We're going to the 90s now. 90s babies. That's next. I don't know what I'm gonna wear because I'm wearing movie themed clothing because I don't have any Marvel apparel yet. That's coming, okay? If you have ideas for any upcoming movies, I might already be filming Captain Marvel when I post this, but if you have clothing themes or outfit ideas before I get my Marvel merch, please leave that down below too. Thank you for watching, and I will see y'all next week.